Hey everybody, it's Dan Sfera, www.theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Once again, that website address, if you're interested, is theclinicaltrialsguru.com. It's where we discuss clinical trials every day in plain English. We're not academics, we are just regular people who happen to work in the clinical trials industry, and we feel like it's important that more people understand what clinical trials are. And over the course of our interviews, where we've interviewed guest gurus, which are the guests that appear on our program, we've come across something that I wanted to cover, and maybe Don will cover this in a later post. But it's the issue of the informed consent. And of course, the informed consent is like the most important document that you will ever encounter as a trial participant in a clinical trial. Now, this consent form may be a little intimidating, and for whatever reason, it just is what it is. I personally am a fan of consent forms being as simple as possible. The point of a consent form is not to intimidate anyone, it's to explain your rights as a clinical trial participant. It's also to explain the benefits and the risks of joining that particular trial, and any details that they may have about the benefits or the risks of that study drug or the clinical trial need to be adequately expressed in the consent form. Now, what has happened over time is these consent forms have gotten longer and longer. There's been more legal jargon in there, talking about injuries and who's responsible, and the drug companies, understandably, they're concerned and they're trying to protect themselves because they invest millions of dollars in these informed consents. So they're going to have their legal jargon in there, but what's important for you to take away from the informed consent is the benefits and the risks. Now, what is an informed consent? A lot of people are intimidated by informed consents when they see them, and they think that, they may be reluctant to sign them because they fear that by signing the consent form, that they have to be in the clinical trial. And that's the furthest thing from the truth. You should never feel that way. And informed consent is to disclose to you, the trial participant, what the risks and benefits of that study is. It is not a contract, and I think this is the part where a lot of people get scared and intimidated by these informed consents. It may look like a contract, but it's not a contract. A contract is binding. A contract forces you to agree with the contract, and it forces you to stick to it after you've signed it. An informed consent is not a contract, it's more of a disclosure. Although the two forms look the same. So a lot of people mistakenly think that by signing an informed consent, they have to continue in that clinical trial no matter what happens, and they have to basically do what's required of them for the clinical trial. And that's the furthest from the truth. You can withdraw from the study at any time. You don't have to give any reasons. The informed consent does not follow you around for the rest of your life. In fact, most drug companies get your information, it's already been de-identified, meaning they don't know who you are, or they don't even know your name. So the informed consent is more of a document for you to acknowledge that you understand your rights and that you understand the benefits and the risks of the clinical trial that you're about to join. It's not binding. It is a legal document, but it's not binding. It doesn't bind you. It doesn't force you to do anything you don't want to do, and no one's going to hold it over your head like they would a regular contract. So hopefully that helps. You should just know that informed consents, although they may look intimidating, they may be like 20 to 30 pages long, they're not contracts. They are just acknowledgement that you understand your rights as well as the benefits and the risks of joining the clinical trials. Hopefully this helps, but we definitely need a lot more work to be done as far as people understanding and feeling comfortable with informed consent forms. Let us know how you feel. www.theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Thanks a lot.